Поздравляю, между прочим, всех русских с этим вышедших.
Sergey Mikhailovich Brin once stood on Soviet soil at age 17 and said simply, "Thank you for taking us out of Russia." How did a boy who fled Moscow with his family become one of the architects of the internet? Sergey Brin was born in Moscow on August 21, 1973, into a Jewish family of scholars. His mother was a mathematics professor, and his father, Michael Brin, an economist and mathematician who had once dreamed of studying astrophysics before those ambitions were blocked by the Soviet regime. In 1979, when Sergey was 6, his family obtained exit visas and emigrated to suburban Maryland in the United States. There, his father joined the University of Maryland faculty as a mathematics professor. Sergey grew up bilingual, speaking Russian at home and English at school. He was enrolled in a Montessori school in suburban Maryland, which emphasized independent and creative learning, a fitting start for someone who would later challenge conventional paths. These experiences left a deep impression. Brin has noted that the freedom he found in America gave him an appreciation for democracy and freedom. He did not return to Moscow again until a high school class trip at age 17. On that visit, he quietly thanked his father, saying, "Thank you for taking us out of Russia." In another youthful act of defiance during the trip, he flung pebbles at a police car, a gesture that underscored how distant and foreign Soviet authority had become to him. Back home in Maryland, Sergey continued to excel in school. He graduated from Eleanor Roosevelt High School in 1990 as one of the top students, already showing a penchant for math and computers. A teacher later recalled that Sergey was always drawing and tinkering. He would solve complex problems for fun long before college. In college, Brin's talent for technology became even clearer. He entered the University of Maryland in 1990. There, he took advanced courses in calculus, algebra, and programming. By 1993, he had completed his coursework and earned bachelor's degrees in both mathematics and computer science, an achievement he managed in just 3 years, graduating with highest honors. Even as an undergraduate, he was building practical software. He created a website where students could rate films at their leisure, and he wrote a program to convert academic documents from the text format into HTML for online viewing. One professor remembered Sergey spending late nights in the lab, writing code on a PC connected to the university network. In later interviews, Brin remarked that he was really interested in data mining, which means analyzing large amounts of data, a statement that in hindsight reads like an early mission statement for Google. Those words hinted at the problem he and Larry Page would tackle next. In his senior year, Brin won a National Science Foundation fellowship and headed west. In the fall of 1993, he began a PhD in computer science at Stanford University. At Stanford, Brin immediately immersed himself in research. In late 1995, he met fellow doctoral student Larry Page. Their first encounter was awkward. Each later joked that he found the other obnoxious at first. But that blunt meeting broke the ice between two strong-willed innovators. They quickly discovered they shared a vision. The World Wide Web was growing by leaps, but nobody had figured out how to efficiently organize all its information. In 1996, the two began collaborating on a new search engine project. Page had written code to crawl web pages and gather hyperlinks, and Sergey's mathematical instincts complemented those early algorithms. Together, they developed the PageRank algorithm, which would rank pages by the number and importance of links pointing to them. In August 1996, they saw immediate promise. One test of their system, which they had nicknamed Backrub, crashed Stanford's network because it had tried to process 24 million pages at once. That success showed the approach worked, so they wrote up their findings in a Stanford research paper, The Anatomy of a Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine, which became a classic reference in the field. Both men started coding everywhere they could, in the computer lab late at night, on library whiteboards, and yes, even in noisy cafes talking through the math. They lived in adjacent grad student cubicles, sharing pizza and ideas as the search engine took shape. Sergey often tested Page's code and gave feedback. In return, Page pushed Sergey to translate the math into efficient programs. Their partnership was built on a common excitement and complementary skills. Sergey later reflected that those years felt like one long hackathon, long hours fueled by curiosity and a belief they were onto something big. By September 1997, the idea was ready to go public. Brin and Page registered the domain google.com, a playful spelling variant of Google, the mathematical term for 10,100, chosen to signal their mission of indexing immense amounts of information. They pitched their prototype to friends and small investors, and in early 1998 secured about $1 million in seed funding. That summer, the turning point came. Sun Microsystems co-founder Andy Bechtolsheim wrote them a $100,000 check out of the blue. Brin and Page dashed to a lawyer's office that same day, hastily incorporating Google Inc. so they could deposit Andy's check. With the new funding in hand, they and a couple of colleagues moved out of the Stanford dorm room and into a garage in Menlo Park, provided by Google's first employee, Susan Wojcicki, who later became YouTube's CEO. In that cramped garage, Google's first servers stood, amusingly made by stacking Lego cases to hold hard drives and memory boards. Sergey slept on a futon under one desk, debugging code while Page did the same under another desk. They kept going day and night, fueled by pizza and caffeine. After one long session, the computer in that garage famously gave off smoke and tripped a circuit breaker, teaching them lessons about cooling and backups the hard way. But those growing pains felt like progress. By late 1998, Google's search engine was live and producing results far better than anything else available. The small team put a sign "Back in 5 minutes" on the door whenever they slept or took a break, joking that they were out changing the world. Even as these technical challenges were being solved, Brin helped set Google's culture. He and Larry believed work should be serious, but also fun. Sergey proposed that Google adopt an informal motto to keep them on track: "Don't be evil." It was meant as a simple reminder that as Google grew, it should not abuse its power or betray user trust. Brin took that slogan seriously. It found its way into Google's corporate code of conduct as an aspiration for every employee. He also favored an open, playful workspace. When Google moved in 1999 into a small office park in Palo Alto, later called the Googleplex, Brin filled it with beanbag chairs, whiteboards on wheels, and an endless supply of snacks. He joked to new hires that the official office dog, a Jack Russell Terrier named Yoshka, was more reliable at debugging than most interns. Sergey was famous for dressing casually. At company meetings, one could often find him in a t-shirt and shorts or zip-off cargo pants. He sometimes rollerbladed across the open-plan office between meetings. In fact, Brin and Larry both attended Burning Man, and on one occasion, the Google homepage had a doodle of a stick figure at Burning Man to explain why they were gone that day. Google also encouraged engineers to spend part of their week on personal projects. This 20% time policy was a favorite of Brin's. He believed that giving brilliant engineers freedom was the best way to invent new products. In many ways, Sergey helped foster an atmosphere of creativity and trust. Employees recall that he would walk the halls, stopping to chat about side projects, never too important to roll up his sleeves with everyone else. The environment he helped create emphasized action over ego, solving problems instead of wearing suits, a philosophy that became synonymous with Google's early image. From those startup days, Google grew at a phenomenal pace, and Sergey Brin grew right along with it. In mid-1989, roughly a year after taking the Bechtolsheim money, Google had about $25 million in venture capital from major firms and was handling roughly 500,000 search queries per day. Brin oversaw the scaling up of Google's infrastructure to meet that demand. He and Larry decided to build their data centers out of thousands of cheap PC servers, rather than buying custom hardware, which allowed Google to expand rapidly. Sergey took personal interest in the layout of the first true Google data farm. He would examine blueprints and say things like, "If one power supply fails, will the cluster still stay up?" By 2000, Google had servers humming in multiple locations. Brin attended the ribbon-cutting ceremonies of new data centers, for instance in Singapore and Oregon, even though he hated ceremonies. On the product side, Brin was still in the lab with engineers. For example, he continued to fine-tune the PageRank algorithm and other search code. In 2001, Google introduced an innovation pioneered by Brin and the ad team, AdWords, a system that showed text ads next to search results based on keyword relevance. At first, Sergey was hesitant to add advertising. He wanted to keep Google's clean look, but he agreed that carefully targeted ads would fund the company without distorting results. So Google launched AdWords, and Brin helped ensure it was integrated seamlessly into search. This gamble paid off. By absorbing the ad revenue, Google became profitable, and revenue grew by 100% each year in the early 2000s. Sergey steered all this growth with minimal fanfare. He never gave IPO-style presentations on TV or sought publicity. He was, after all, an engineer who preferred code to cameras, but insiders knew that he and Page were quietly engineering Google's success in every way possible, from guiding the technical roadmap to defending the company's direction. Even as users around the world logged onto Google every day, Brin took time to address broader questions. In June 2006, for instance, he made an unprecedented visit to Washington, D.C. to meet with US lawmakers. The topic was how to regulate the booming internet industry. Sergey told Congress members that tech companies needed to engage in policy discussions, explaining that we should be entitled to our representation in government. He argued that having a seat at the table was important because misunderstandings about Google were already forming in Washington. Meanwhile, Brin paid attention to Google's obligations to users. In China, Google had agreed to censor some search results to operate there, and Sergey agonized over it. He had grown up under censorship, and he worried it might compromise Google's integrity. He later defended the decision at the time by noting that restricted information was better than none. In other controversies, say when Google's Street View cars irked privacy activists, or when YouTube videos caused diplomatic furor, Sergey mostly left the public statements to Larry Page or other executives. But internally, he insisted they respond pragmatically, fix issues, and learn. If Google stumbled, Brin would say it was part of progress. He showed flexibility. When Google tried a social network, Google+, and found it wasn't taking off, he admitted years later it was a mistake and lightened the mood by calling himself kind of a weirdo for having pushed it. Through it all, his voice remained calm and focused on facts, not ideology. By the mid-2000s, Google was a household name, and Sergey Brin was one of the highest-profile figures in tech, even if he largely shunned headlines. In 2005, Google's staff grew from hundreds to thousands, spread over dozens of global offices. Sergey oversaw technical integration of many products in development. For example, he supervised the launch of Google Maps and Google Earth, turning vast map databases into searchable online maps. And he made sure Google Scholar, searching academic papers, worked at scale. In late 2005, he pushed hard for Google's Android acquisition, believing that mobile phones would become the primary way people accessed information. His guidance helped Android become a massively successful platform. By late 2006, Google was processing roughly 200 million searches per day. In November 2006, Google announced it had acquired YouTube for about $1.65 billion. Sergey was personally involved in smoothing the merger. He wanted YouTube to benefit from Google's fast content delivery network, and he reassured YouTube's team they could keep running it as an independent brand. These milestones drew praise. Time magazine made Brin and Page Co-Persons of the Year in 2006, citing how their innovations had changed how people find information online. Forbes listed Sergey among the world's richest. Still, he remained characteristically modest. On the rare occasions he spoke to media, he downplayed his wealth and instead talked about solving problems. He never proclaimed himself a genius or savior. Rather, he saw himself as a builder, one who kept working on the next thing. In April 2011, Google announced a major reorganization. Sergey Brin would step down from his day-to-day engineering management role and become head of the company's new Special Projects division. In practice, this simply formalized what had already been happening. Brin had long been shepherding Google's most ambitious research, often informally. Now he took the official title of President of Special Projects, later known as Google X. In this role, he guided so-called moonshot initiatives. He oversaw the self-driving car project, Waymo, directing its engineers on how to scale testing and improve software. He promoted the Project Loon effort to send internet via high-altitude balloons, and he encouraged a team that tested hypersonic transportation ideas. Sergey liked to say that failure was just an experiment. Under Google X, any idea could get funded if the math or code showed potential. In August 2015, Google announced it was reorganizing as Alphabet Inc., a parent company for Google and its various ventures. Brin became president of Alphabet. Even in this shift, his approach was steady. He remained on the board and continued to lend advice, but he publicly handed daily operations to new CEOs, Page for Google, Sundar Pichai, later on. When he and Larry announced their decision to step back in 2019, they emphasized they never were ones to hold on to management roles. Sergey wrote, "This is the natural time to simplify our management structure. It enables us to operate more efficiently and become more nimble," reassuring investors that they would still focus on new technologies. Through these years, Sergey Brin's personal life drew interest, but he kept it private. He married twice. In 2007, he wed biotech entrepreneur Anne Wojcicki in a surprise ceremony on a Bahamas beach. The couple invited friends on a boat cruise, then held an informal wedding on a sandbar wearing beach clothes. They had 2 sons together. Media sometimes nicknamed them Wojin by combining their surnames. Sergey took fatherhood seriously. He often arrived at work carrying one child in a baby Bjorn, and he made time for weekend soccer games and bedtime stories. He even jokingly said having kids reminded him that Google's mission, organizing the world's information, had real-world impact for the next generation. In 2015, Sergey and Anne divorced amicably, and in 2018, Brin married attorney Nicole Shanahan. They had a daughter soon after. That marriage ended by 2023. Throughout these changes, Brin remained generally upbeat. Colleagues say he continued to prioritize family dinner each night and insisted on always finishing workdays in time to see his kids. Friends recall that at times he would disconnect from email after hours, trekking into the nearby hills for a run or hike, while still carrying a phone so he could answer any urgent Google issues on the trail. Brin's interests outside Google were wide-ranging. He invested in clean energy and education initiatives. For example, he co-founded a clean technology fund that poured tens of millions into startups researching batteries and biofuels. He supported efforts in his own community. In Los Altos, California, where he settled, Brin created a private urban development fund called Passerelle. Through it, he bought up parcels of land in downtown Los Altos to preserve local shops and prevent outsized chains from moving in. He was a trustee on the X Prize Foundation board, which awards large prizes for scientific breakthroughs. Sergey also had high adventure hobbies. He obtained a pilot's license and flew light aircraft for recreation. He took up flying lessons and even co-owned a small jet for quick travel between Google sites. Another passion was extreme sports. He trained in circus, trapeze, and acrobatics for fun, and he occasionally drifted in amateur car racing events. One Silicon Valley newspaper reported that Brin's hobby garage contains a collection of quirky vehicles, including early electric cars. He was known to test drive any promising new gadget. If Google acquired a startup with experimental hardware, say drones or robots, Sergey would make a point of playing with the prototype and giving feedback on its design. Sergey Brin also devoted much of his fortune to philanthropy. He and his family started the Sergey Brin Family Foundation, which funds medical research and education. One focus has been Parkinson's disease. After discovering he carried a gene mutation that raised his own risk, Brin and his then-wife donated well over $100 million to accelerate Parkinson's research. They also contributed heavily to neuroscience and health initiatives. For example, they funded the creation of an open scientific database at the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research. Brin was passionate about education. He gave millions to math and science programs in schools. In 2024, he made headlines by donating roughly $57 million to his undergraduate alma mater, creating the Brin Mathematics Research Center at the University of Maryland. That center supports research in pure and applied math, reflecting Sergey's belief that fundamental science underpins future technology. Locally, he backed charter schools and community colleges in the Bay Area, sponsoring robotics clubs and coding camps. Despite such largesse, Brin personally flew under the radar. He often made donations anonymously, or at least quietly, preferring to let researchers and educators shine rather than seeking credit himself. When artificial intelligence exploded into public view in 2023, Sergey Brin was quietly drawn in again. Google's rivals had released breakthrough AI models, and Google's own researchers realized they needed to push harder. Company leadership discreetly tapped Brin, along with Larry Page, for advice on how to respond. Reports later confirmed that by early 2024, Sergey was playing a key role in Google's AI efforts. He visited the Gemini AI lab at the Googleplex, meeting with engineers and data scientists. In March 2024, he spoke at an AI conference in San Francisco and acknowledged that he had kind of come out of retirement because the field was so exciting. A few months later, at an investors' summit in Los Angeles, he said he was back at Google pretty much every day, tinkering with algorithms and even writing some of his own code. Brin became an advocate of leveraging AI to improve Google's products. He recommended applying Google's strengths, like its massive text and image data, to build more versatile models. In a published technical paper for Google's new AI system, Gemini, Brin's name appeared as a core contributor, confirming his hands-on involvement. He also spoke candidly about AI's limits. He praised the language generation advances, but admitted that Google had definitely messed up on its early image generation models, promising to do better. At a Berlin tech conference, he remarked that in his decades of computing, he had never seen anything as exciting as the recent progress in AI. He even told reporters he was using Google's own AI tools to help write some code, quipping, "I just don't want to miss out on these breakthroughs." All along, Sergey Brin's career and character reflected a single theme: solving big problems. He often quoted his own saying that solving big problems is easier than solving little problems, meaning that fundamental challenges can often inspire simpler, more elegant solutions when approached at scale. This philosophy guided everything he did, from building the first search index to exploring artificial intelligence. As of the mid-2020s, Sergey Brin remains formally listed as a co-founder of Alphabet and continues to engage with technology quietly. He lives in California with his family, often seen biking to work or walking around Google's campuses in casual clothes. His late-life scene is ordinary in some ways. Colleagues describe him as working on a laptop or a tablet, perhaps sitting by a window at Google or at a home office, thinking through code or sketching models on a digital whiteboard. There is no grand stage at the end of his biography. Instead, the final image is grounded. Sergey Brin, the engineer and innovator, sitting at a computer and smiling at a new idea. His story doesn't conclude with a flourish or morale. It simply continues, with a brilliant mind quietly at work on the next big challenge.